Hello everyone, I am Prashant Gola. I welcome you all to the webinar series Part 1 Introduction to Blockchain organized by Bridgade. Bridgade is a training cum recruitment platform where our main focus is to train candidates, upskill them, and make them job ready. For more information on Bridgade, please visit our website and LinkedIn page. Link to the same is provided in the description below. Now, coming back to the blockchain, in this webinar, I will be covering the basics of blockchain, some applications of blockchain, and a case study to help you all understand how does a Bitcoin transaction takes place using blockchain. Blockchain gained its popularity in a very short time, and slowly it is being used in various domains due to its security feature and versatility. Let's understand the fundamentals of blockchain. In layman terms, blockchain is a chain of blocks where each block contains some data. As we keep on adding new data blocks, this chain keeps expanding as can be seen in the diagram. Every time a new block is created to store new data, the block gets added to the chain. Blockchain in more definitive terms is sometimes referred to as distributed ledger technology or DLT. DLT is basically a transaction database shared by all nodes participating in a system. A blockchain, in the simplest of terms, a timestamp series of immutable record of data that is managed by a cluster of computers not owned by any single entity. Each of these blocks of data is secured and bound to each other by using cryptographic principles, that is chain. Now, what is DLT or distributed ledger technology? Ledger is nothing but a data record. It means that the data stored in these blocks is shared by every node that is a part of blockchain network. Now, what is a node? It is a device like a computer that contains blockchain data, or in more simple terms, it is a computational device which has computational power and a memory. I will explain these components like the block and node in more detail in coming slides. A simple analogy for understanding blockchain technology is a Google Doc, a decentralization distribution chain that gives access to the document at the same time. All modifications to the doc are being recorded in real time, making changes completely transparent. Now let's understand structure of blockchain in more detail. So let's first start with a block. There are three basic elements in a block. There can be more than three elements, but these three are the prerequisite. The first one is the data. As the name says, data, the data part of the block will contain the data, and it depends upon the technology for which the blockchain is being used. The data will contain the data from that particular domain. For example, in Bitcoin, the data would be the timestamp, the transaction amount, or and the transaction counter. Similarly, if the blockchain is being used in medical domain, it contains the medical records, and similarly for other domains. Now the next key element is the hash. Hash, consider it as an identification number, and it is unique for every block in the blockchain. This hash number ensures that no one from outside the network can add a new block. So it is simple, right? It is like an ID which is given to every block that is added to the blockchain. Now the third and the final key element of a block is the hash of the previous block. It is stored in the block to connect the block and form a blockchain. Now, why the hash of the previous block is required? Let's say there are four blocks in a blockchain: block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. So, block 4 will contain the hash of block 4 as well as block 3, and the block 3 will contain the hash of block 3 and block 2, and similarly the chain will continue. So, since the current block contains the hash of previous blocks, it is connected to it, not physically, but you can say in a virtual sense. Like the current block knows the location to the previous block, and this is how the chain is connected. Now let's understand what is a node in a blockchain. Node form the infrastructure of a blockchain. All nodes on a blockchain are connected to each other and they constantly exchange the latest blockchain data with each other so that all the nodes stay up to date. They store, spread, and preserve the blockchain data. So, theoretically, a blockchain exists on nodes. What do we mean by that? Let's say a transaction takes place at node 1. Once the transaction has been completed, the data will be updated at all the nodes. So, the ledger that these nodes are containing will be updated. So, this is how the transparency is maintained, and now we can say since the transaction at node 1 is updated at node 2 as well, so the entire blockchain exists on these individual nodes as well. In physical form, node is nothing but a computer which has a memory and computational power, as I explained earlier. So in physical form, this is a computer device. Now let's move to the key technologies in blockchain. The first one is the private key cryptography. Private key cryptography involves two different keys, private key and a public key. One key is purposely kept private and the other is provided to the other party, and in most cases the other party is the user. So once a new user joined a blockchain network, two keys will be generated. One is public and one is private. One key is kept private and the other will be given to the user for encryption and decryption purposes. If you use private key to encrypt, then the public key will be used to decrypt and vice versa. So this is an asymmetric algorithm since either of the key can be used for encryption or decryption based on the implementation of blockchain. The next key technology is peer-to-peer network or P2P network in short form. Peer-to-peer network makes use of distributed ledger to stop data breaches. Now let's understand this with an example. Suppose A finds the transaction that B pays 5 bitcoins to C. Node A broadcasts this to the peer B and C in the network. If the transaction is verified, the peers here B and C forward this transaction to their peers and the transaction propagates rapidly across the network. Simple. Now let's say node D is in the red color, as you can see. It will try to do something. That is why it is marked with in red color. Now let's say node D tries to modify the transaction information. It modifies the information suggesting that instead of node B transferring the bitcoins to node C, it will have to transfer it to D and propagates this information to adjacent nodes. Now once the information has been propagated throughout, there is a majority and minority difference here. The majority of the nodes have the correct information that the transaction will take place from node B to node C. So the correct information will be accepted and the incorrect information or the modified information will be rejected since it is in minority. I hope this gives you an information how secure P2P network is and what happens when someone tries to modify or breach the data. And the final is the blockchain program. The final technology or the third key technology is the blockchain programming. The blockchain is the way of implementing any solution use case. Blockchain is not just restricted to transaction system. It has application across various domains. It helps in overcoming previous problems by providing new generation solutions. So as I mentioned earlier, blockchain is not only used in Bitcoin or banking system, it can be used in medical domains or in security. So I will cover these applications in the coming slides. Blockchain is a concept and can be implemented by any language that is OOPS based, object oriented programming based, can be used to implement blockchain. But Solidity is the most preferred language for implementing blockchain. Now this is a flow diagram of blockchain. This is a blockchain flow diagram. How does the entire process takes place? How does a transaction takes place is explained in this flow diagram theoretically. I'll be explaining this process in more detail in the case study, but let's understand is how does a transaction takes place. Someone requests a transaction. The requested transaction is broadcast to a P2P network. The way we understood in the previous slides, let's say someone initiates a transaction, so it will be broadcast in the P2P network that contains various nodes. The P2P network of the nodes validates the transaction and the user status using known algorithms. Once verified the transaction is combined with other transaction to create a new block of data for the ledger. The new block is then added to the existing blockchain in a way that is permanent and unalterable, and the transaction is completed. Now let's understand what are the various types of blockchain. I hope you all have fair idea about blockchain by now. So let's now throw some light on different types of blockchain. The first one is the public blockchain. In public blockchain, ledger is visible to everyone on the internet, and anyone can add or verify a block of transaction to the blockchain. For example, Bitcoin. For instance, I become a part of a blockchain network, then I will have the access to the entire ledger. I can view, read, and write data on the blockchain, exactly what happens in a Bitcoin system. The moment you join the Bitcoin system, you will have all the rights to add, verify, or validate a Bitcoin. The next one is the private blockchain. In this, the ledger is visible to only specific people. Example of this type of blockchain is Ripple or XRP. So in private blockchain, one party has control over entire ledger. For instance, Ripple, which is also known as XRP, is one such cryptocurrency which is based on private key blockchain. The XRP is a cryptocurrency and Ripple is the name of the company. So Ripple decides which nodes on the network will have access to the ledger. The third and the final type is consortium. In this, the ledger is visible to a group of people and they can verify or add to a block of transaction to the blockchain. Example of consortium blockchain is Hyperledger. Consortium blockchain platforms have many of the same advantages as a private blockchain but operate under the leadership of group instead of single entity. So this platform would be a great for organizational collaborations. For example, a cryptocurrency is being controlled by various organizations, so they will implement a consortium type blockchain so that multiple organizations can have a control over the ledger. So only these organizations can add or verify the cryptocurrency. Okay, so now let's understand what are some problems which are addressed by blockchain. The first one is the centralized power. Every monetary system that is out there today is controlled through a central governing authority today. Almost all currencies available in the market are controlled through a central body, so the power lies in the hands of one single organization. However, Bitcoin with blockchain underneath solves this problem of centralized power by making the ledger available to everyone in the network. The power which was held with one single authority earlier is distributed to everyone in the network, and thereby making this a making it a decentralized system where power is distributed to everyone who is a part of network. The second problem that is addressed by blockchain is public ledger. Transparency with the help of public ledger. When a ledger when the ledger is not accessible to every member in the network, the system is not transparent. For instance, the banking system do not share the ledger, so if an unintended transaction takes place, the user will not be aware of it, and if the bank decides to invest our money in something that so we have no way of knowing in which particular domain the bank has invested our money. But with the public ledger, every user gets a copy of entire blockchain as soon as the person signs up to become a member of the blockchain system. So you get list of all the transactions from a start of transaction. So you, let's say a bank that operates on a blockchain network, so you will have detail of every transaction, where your money is being kept, where it is invested, all the details. So it makes the system transparent. The third issue that is addressed with blockchain is hacking. So blockchain is nearly immutable to hack. Assume current banking system, there are two people, A and B. A transfers 100 rupees to B. As soon as the transaction is put in a queue to be processed, so this is what happened in the background, that once someone initiate a transaction, it is put in a queue, and let's say a hacker come, he intervenes and manipulates the information that the transaction that was supposed to take place from A's account to B's account will now take place from A's account to hacker's account. Now the transaction will take place from A's account to hacker's account, and there's no way of avoiding this since the hacker has attacked the back end of the system. It is not the front end interface, it is the back end. Like what you see in the application, in the net banking and everything, that is a front end, but there are some processes that take place underneath the facade. So if a hacker comes in and he manipulates that information that is behind the front end interface, so there's no way of knowing it, and the data breach will take place. Although with advanced encryption, system breach is very difficult, but still it is possible. But with the help of blockchain P2P system, as I explained earlier, peer-to-peer system, this data breach can be avoided. As you all know that in the P2P system, if a transaction is taking place, there is a majority and minority difference. So the majority of the nodes will have the correct information and the minority will have the incorrect information. So the majority's correct information will be accepted and incorrect information will be rejected, and this will avoid the data breach, and this will avoid the incorrect transaction. Now the fourth and the final problem is double spending. How this is being taken care, I will explain that in the case study. Okay, so double spending, I'll explain the problem. Double spending is a very common problem. So in this, what happens, let's say I have 500 rupees in my account. So at the same time I initiates two transaction of 500 rupees. So both the transaction will take place successfully, but since I only have 500, so this is not correct. So this problem is also addressed with blockchain. Now these are the few applications of blockchain. You all know the structure of blockchain, and one of the key element of blockchain is a block, and block contain three key elements: the hash of current block, the hash of previous block, and a data. So data is something that varies as the domain changes. For example, if we talk about the banking system, the data will comprise of transaction amount, timestamp, etc. For banking, payment and transfer, Bitcoin is a perfect example how the data is stored. As I explained earlier, it contains a timestamp and everything. And as we all know that Bitcoin is rapidly replacing the current banking and transaction system. Now, if we talk about the healthcare sector, so the data will contain the information of patients. So anyone who has access to blockchain network can see the details, and since the underlying technology is blockchain, patients' detail cannot be manipulated. And since you all remember that there's also a concept of cryptography, so the public key is with the doctors. So once they use that public key for decryption, they will get the information of a particular patient. And similarly for law enforcement, for voting for online music will contain data from the respective domain. Now this is a simple case study on how the transaction take place in a Bitcoin system. James, Stephen, Rahul, Kevin, Paul, Robert, Lisa, these 7 people are a part of blockchain network. Let's say James wants to transfer 500 Bitcoin to Kevin. That transaction needs to be validated by someone else. So in this case, that is the job of miners. Robert and Lisa will verify that James has sufficient amount or not in order for the transaction to take place. Because let's say if James doesn't have 500 bitcoins, or he has 100 bitcoins, or any amount less than 500 bitcoins, the transaction cannot take place. Okay, so this validation will be done by the miners. Lisa and Robert are the miners in this case. Now in this slide we can see the example of ledger. On the right hand side you can see the account number and the balance. So this is how a ledger looks like. Not exactly this, but this is an example. Okay, third row holds the account number of James, and it has sufficient bitcoins, as it can be seen on the ledger, for transaction to take place. So the transaction will take place, and the 500 bitcoins are added to Kevin's account and deducted from James' account. Since the ledger is available to everyone in the network, all the members will be notified that a transaction has taken place. But how is it validated by miners, Robert and Lisa? Let's understand that. They will check the transaction history of James, whether a sum of 500 bitcoins had been transferred to his account earlier or not. They will verify all the debit and credit details, and once it is verified that his account has sufficient bitcoins, this transaction will be added to a new blockchain. So one key point I want to highlight here is that the validation is based on debit and credit history, not the actual amount in the account, just to make the process more robust. So by debit and credit history, I mean his transaction history will be checked whether a sum of 500 bitcoins has been transferred to his account or not at any point of time, and a sum of 500 has been credited from his account or not. So after checking all the transaction history, if there are more than 500 bitcoins left in the account of James, so the transaction will take place. Now consider one more case. James initiates 2 transactions, one to Kevin and one to Rahul. So let me take to the previous slide. So James initiates 2 transactions, one to Kevin and one to Rahul, each for 500 bitcoins, but he only has 500 bitcoins in his account. So the first validation of the first transaction will take place. It is validated by James' accounts, and it is validated by the miners, and James' accounts will be updated, and his request for second transaction will be ignored since he does not have sufficient balance. He only has 500 bitcoins in this case, and this in turn resolves the problem of double spending, because if you remember, I mentioned in the uh, previous slides that double spending is also a problem which is being addressed by blockchain, and this is how it is addressed, that if simultaneously two transactions take place, the first transaction will be validated by the miners based on the transaction history, debit and credit history. It will be added to the blockchain. Then again, uh, the second the second request will be catered, and since the amount has been deducted, so it will not be processed, and this second request will be rejected. Now, what is there for miners in this, right? This is not a voluntary work. Every miner gets 12.5 bitcoins upon successful validation of a transaction. 12.5 bitcoins is a huge amount. If you convert it in today's currency, it is a huge amount. But at the same time, the resources required for this process are huge. A lot of computation power is required, so the setup in itself is very expensive. With this, let's end the session. I hope this webinar gave you some insight into blockchain technology. You can send us your doubts on bridget.net or in the comment section. A few words on Bridget. So, Bridget, at Bridget, our goal is to become a catalyst with a social mission to bridge the widening skill gap between the human capital and new age employment opportunity. As a one stop training and recruitment platform, we wish to provide solution to the students and active workforce and corporate enterprises. So the main idea of Bridget is to train the candidates who lack certain skills and make them job ready. And we hope you learned something out of this webinar, and we'll be coming up with more such knowledgeable sessions to add to your knowledge. Thank you. And before ending this, there are some useful resources. You can check it out in the PPT. So this PPT will be you can find this PPT in the summary section of this video. So link to this PPT will be provided there, and these are the contact details. You can find the same in the PPT as well. And with this, I end this webinar session. Thank you.